What's up with the Bioshock games? Let's take a look at Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite in the Bioshock collection. I'm doing something a little different, so we'll take a look at some hidden facts and information about each game when we get there. As usual, you can jump around the video to any game you want, or just watch them in order with me. Either way, let's get started. What's up with Bioshock? Bioshock was released in the hellstorm that was 2007, alongside Mass Effect, Halo 3, and Assassin's Creed, among others. Bioshock was also Xbox 360 exclusive for over a year, since a port wouldn't come to PS3 until 2008. The game is a spiritual successor to System Shock, which this same team developed System Shock 2 prior to Bioshock. Okay, let's run through the story. The game starts with you, Jack, on a plane looking at a gift from his parents. He mumbles some shit to himself and the plane crashes into the ocean. Jack is the only survivor, and you swim to the nearest land, which happens to be a lighthouse. Jack enters and instantly starts seeing propaganda. On the lower floor, you see a bathysphere, which is a type of sub, and Jack is like, hey, let's go on a ride, and it brings him down into the ocean. A man named Andrew Ryan starts talking over the speakers about gods and men, until his voiceover eventually reveals an underwater city called Rapture. Rapture was designed as a place where people could live free of religion or government interference. Rapture went to shit some time back, and most of the people are either dead or turned into splicers. Splicers are the game's main enemy. They're basically people who have had their mind and body transformed by Adam, basically turning them into dysmorphed crazy lunatics that will attack you on sight. We'll talk about Adam soon. Once you arrive in Rapture, you get a call from someone named Atlas, who seems to be quite the promising young man.
I'm Atlas, and I aim to keep you alive.
He helps you survive and navigate through the environment. You come across plasmids. Basically, you shove a fat needle in your arm and you gain superpowers, but not before passing out. As you regain consciousness, you see a big daddy and a little sister. You go on to do some simple missions which have to do with helping Atlas reunite with his family. Okay, big daddies are the bosses of the game, and little sisters are kind of like a currency. And this is where Adam comes back in. It comes from a sea slug, and Rapture has utilized it to create things such as plasmids. Adam becomes valuable and addictive, so enabled to create larger amounts, experiments were done to use little girls to serve as hosts for these slugs. Okay, so fighting a big daddy, these guys are tough and fast. Best way to deal with them is by using traps, electricity to stun them, and turrets as support. Once you take one down, the little sister will be left behind crying, and this is when you get a choice to either harvest her, which removes the slug, gives you the most Adam, but kills her in the process, or save her, which will give you less Adam, but it frees her from the slug and allowing her to be normal again. A cheat code is that you can harvest one little sister for free and still get the good ending. Bioshock is incredible, it really is. Not only the gameplay, which has many layers in terms of the variety of weapons and plasmids that you get to use, but the story and the setting are very well thought out. Connecting areas sometimes give you a great view of the underwater city. The setting of Rapture is excellent, and the environmental storytelling is top-notch. I didn't notice this the first time, but some bathrooms you need to pay to get access to the stalls. If you look around, you'll see more hints like this. It really gives you a strong look at what Rapture must have been like before the fall. The story has some interesting characters that you get to know in various ways. There are audio logs sprinkled throughout the game, and each of these characters also have opinions of each other too. You'll hear about Fontaine, Sophia Lamb, Tenenbaum, Sander Cohen, Suchong, among others. A negative I have with the game is the tonic system. This is like perks, which gives you different buffs. You can buy tonics from the Gatherer's Garden, and they either buff your physical, engineering, or combat traits. But since you can only equip 2 at the start, you may be buying a tonic that you can't equip yet. There's been a few times that I buy 2 that I love for physical, and they fill up the slots. And then I buy a third that I think falls under engineering, but no, it's also physical and I just never use it. I think these should be color-coded or something, which is weird because each category is already color-coded. Physical is blue, engineering is yellow, and combat is green, but the tonics themselves are not. I got frustrated with this my first time through. Smarter people than me probably had no issue with this. If you were following the gaming space in the early 2010s, then you might have heard about a Bioshock game that was planned to come to the Vita.
And it's very early days and the design is still evolving. But recently, we found the right home for it. It's on this guy.
In 2014, Bioshock launched on the App Store for iPhones. Though it had poor reviews, the game was basically there. I honestly thought that this was the version of the game that would be ported to the Vita, but that game was snuffed out once the game was removed from the App Store in the following year. Ken Levine spoke about how the Vita game was planned to be a tactics-like game, top-down and take place before the fall of Rapture. They chose to go this route because it would just be so different from the previous titles. It never happened, of course, and Ken spoke about how Sony and 2K just couldn't work out a deal. It seemed that both parties eventually lost interest over time. A couple times when I'm making these videos, I go back to record footage and I get that feeling of, damn, I really should play this game again. I got it here almost right away. The contrasting imagery in the game is just so clever. So many games take inspiration from Bioshock for various reasons. The dichotomy between the little sisters and the big daddies, and even how Rapture was made for people who think they're above society, yet they live under the ocean. I love it. The gameplay is great, the story is great, but the buttons suck. Okay, so B is to heal and X is to replenish your Eve. These being on the face buttons are horrible, but I'm thinking, what are the chances the devs saw the red button and said, hey, let that do the red thing and let the blue button do the blue thing? Jump is on Y, but that was pretty common in the early 2000s, so I can overlook that. Speaking of Eve, these shits are rare as f***. Especially after a Big Daddy fight, you'll most likely be very low. Plasmids help a lot with those fights, so you'll probably be scouring the circus of values or something to get your hands on some Eve. Health packs are just laying around everywhere, and you eat food that's just laying around, so health doesn't really become an issue. What I noticed was that in Bioshock 2, there are Eve dispensers that sometimes poop one out for you. It would have been perfect if that were in this game too, especially because there are already health dispensers but no Eve dispensers. Frankly, it makes no damn sense. Okay, let's answer the question. Should you play Bioshock? Well, it's the perfect game if you don't want your textures to load. If you're invulnerable to fire, and if you buy bootleg homing missiles. What's up? Yeah, this game's fire. Aside from the small stuff I mentioned earlier, this game is near perfect. It's high up on many all-time lists and it's very clear to see. The Bioshock collection is on just about everything and it goes on sale all the time, so keep an eye out. But wait, there was a sequel that Irrational had nothing to do with. What's up with Bioshock 2? The game was released in 2010 by 2K Marin. Irrational Games didn't work on this game at all. Ken Levine said that he didn't have any more stories left to tell in Rapture, and that him and the team just wanted to move on. When Bioshock 2 was announced, it was initially called Bioshock 2 Sea of Dreams, showing a little girl holding a Big Daddy plushie and a return to Rapture. It was then later clarified that 2K chose to name that trailer Sea of Dreams, and that the game would just be called Bioshock 2. The game's first cutscene takes place before Bioshock 1, but past that it takes place after it, so play the first game first. The story is quite simple, so let's run through it. You play this game as an Alpha Series Big Daddy, called Delta. Yeah, don't ask. Alpha Series just mean that it's a dude in a suit, and they're not grafted to the inside of it, like those larger ones that you see everywhere. You're still pretty f***ed up from all the Atom, but it ain't that bad, you know what I mean? Also, what it means is that you have an undying bond to one little sister. And in this case, your little sister is Eleanor. The entire objective of the game is to reunite with Eleanor, so you get help from some jabronis that you may have heard about in the first game, like Tenenbaum and Sinclair, and go on your way. At this point in time, a bunch of the little sisters have grown up into big sisters, since you didn't see them all in the first game. They have badass suits and are super agile. With the ability to use plasmids, they are quite the force to be reckoned with. In the story, Sophia Lamb is using the big sisters to venture to the surface to abduct little girls, bring them back down to Rapture to make more little sisters. Big sisters become a boss that you need to fight ever so often and don't give you the option to leave them alone, like the Big Daddies from the first game. Speaking of which, since you are a Big Daddy, you can now adopt little sisters and use them to get at them.
Daddy, are you taking me home too?
They will lead you to corpses where they can gather. You protect them, you do that twice. Once all finished, you bring them to one of the events, or whatever it's called, and then you get that classic choice. Harvest or savor. This, as usual, has ties to the ending. And now there are 6 different ones, so good luck. In terms of gameplay, I think it's vastly improved over the last game. You can now wield both your plasmids and weapons at the same time, making for quicker combos. The weapons you got are mostly tools. First off, you have the signature drill. It can be used to just poke fools with the pointy end, or you can hold down RT and send their juices flying everywhere. It uses fuel to do that, so it's something you're gonna need to keep an eye on. Also, the rivet gun, which is kind of your pistol equivalent. It has other use cases though, since you can have trap and heavy ammo. One issue I had was that the face buttons had critical function in the last game. Now healing is right on the D-pad. It's a weird spot for it, but I think it's better than B. Getting footage, I didn't replay it long, but I don't believe there's a way to manually replenish your Eve. I just don't remember if that's a thing here. Another negative I had was the tonic system was kind of a mess. Now they're all lumped into one giant list, so any tonic can be equipped as long as you have an open slot. No more categories, which is so much better. I gave you a fact about the Sea of Dreams thing, but I'll give you one more. Do you know that game Gone Home? It's like a creepy walking simulator. It takes place in a house. Well, some of the team that worked on Bioshock 2 DLC, Minerva's Den, they left the studio to create Fulbright. And Fulbright went on to make Gone Home. The vibes in Gone Home make sense now, since it was inspired by Bioshock 2. A couple observations before we wrap it up. The levels are much larger than the first game. You can really explore and get lost looking for loot. Locked doors, hidden areas, and optional missions are here in bulk, so there's plenty to do other than the main quest. Also, I think this ties into it, but the game is much more difficult. I found myself constantly running low on resources and having to scrounge areas for something to help me out. The larger, more explorable areas look appetizing now, since you now know that you'll need this stuff sooner than later. Okay, let's answer the question. Should you play Bioshock 2? Well, it's the perfect game, if you can survive being shot in the head.
5.
Yoink. If hiding with mannequin heads can't save you. And if you notice that these are just 2D images. Okay, this game is great, honestly. People are mixed on it from what I've heard, mainly because it wasn't made by Irrational. Some people just think it doesn't count. Feel however you want, but when I first played it, I enjoyed it more than Bioshock 1. Now, I don't think so. It's still a great game either way. Speaking of which, Irrational did make one more Bioshock game. What's up with Bioshock Infinite? The game released in 2013 and was the second Bioshock game by Irrational Games. On the surface, things are quite different. The game takes place in the sky rather than underwater, and everything seems so happy compared to the miserable place that Rapture was. As you dig deeper, you realize that not everything is as it seems, but we'll touch on that a bit later. The game starts with you, Booker DeWitt, on a boat, looking at a box that was given to you. Wait. Yeah, never mind. Anyways, you open it up to reveal a gun, a photo, and some other shit that you're gonna need. You're on a small boat with a man and a woman, who you will later find out are the Lutece twins. They tell you to bring them a girl to wipe away some kind of debt. They drop you off at a lighthouse, which looks awfully familiar. You ascend it and find a chair. Well, time to go on a ride. The whole thing turns into a rocket which shoots you up in the sky, revealing Columbia.
Hallelujah.
This game's version of Rapture. Columbia is a place where everyone is hyper-religious and white supremacist who praise a man called Comstock. To enter the city, Booker is baptized. Soon after, you realize that the girl you're supposed to get is in the Freedom Tower. The whole racist shit is kind of pissing you off, so you start murking fools. You get to the Freedom Tower to reveal Elizabeth. Comstock is her father, and she's been locked in here for her whole life. So the mission of the game is to fight your way out of Columbia with Elizabeth to wipe away this so-called debt. I know I said that the last game, some people didn't like it because it wasn't made by Irrational, but this game is even more divisive somehow. Mainly because it's a shooter first. You might be thinking, yeah, well, all of them are shooters. But this is like a go to an arena, kill everyone. Go to another arena, kill everyone. Go to another, There's just no choice of morality like the first game, and no connection to any of the characters like the second. The environments are smaller, side sections for looting, but that's basically it. Plasmids are gone and now replaced with vigors, which are drinks instead of needles. They work the same way, but their use case are more niche. One is a grenade, one is a knock-up ability, one is a stun, etc. Plasmids interacted with the environment much better, like lighting up oil spills, shocking puddles of water, but there isn't any of that here. What I can say is that the combat is great. The guns feel snappy and everything is strong to use. No gun outshines everything else. But it's a 2-weapon system. The weapon wheel is gone, and you can only carry 2 guns of your choice. So pick your poison. Okay, I found out at first, at least in the discussion phase, that the team at Irrational really did plan to set the game in Rapture. They decided not to since it would take away from some of the mystery regarding the city's origin. When they turned their setting to the skies, they wanted Columbia to feel like Rapture at first. It was planned to be a stormy and cloudy city. They noticed that it resembled Rapture a little bit too much and decided to remove that dreary look. The game was also plenty different from what we got at the end. Look at a lot of the reveal and gameplay trailers from earlier on. This game being so different than the previous games makes there quite a lot to speak about. So I'll run through some of them as to not bore you. The lack of big daddies in this game leave that gameplay equivalent to an enemy type called the Handyman. They're fast and tough just like them and demand all your attention to take them down. Between the islands are skylines, and this is how the floating islands connect to each other. People and cargo can attach to the lines and ride them to their destination, and you use them quite a lot. Songbird is a hulking creature that was created to protect Elizabeth, and also to keep her in the tower. It chases you and Elizabeth once you escape with her, and it's capable of doing insane amounts of damage to the buildings. It's the most feared thing in Colombia for a good reason. Okay, let's talk about Elizabeth. She's going along with you because she was stuck in her tower for her entire life, and you are her ticket out. She doesn't know that you plan to turn her over, so she'll basically blindly follow you. You realize pretty quick that she can open up tears to other dimensions. She explains it a bit here.
A window to another world. Most of the time their doll is dishwater, a different colored towel or tea instead of coffee.
It's to bring objects or locations that are present in other dimensions. She uses this actively as you play, able to bring in supplies, weapons, turrets, cover, etc. to aid your fight. Not just that, but she can toss you weapons, ammo, salts for vigors, and even money from time to time. The game makes it clear that you don't need to babysit her and that she can take care of herself. Basically meaning that she's invincible, so don't worry about it. I was gonna make comparisons between Elizabeth and Ellie since they play similar roles in regards to the player character. Also, Bioshock Infinite and Last of Us came out in the same year, so it's kinda funny. What's even funnier is that Troy Baker is the lead in both games. I can speak on this a bit. This is the first time that a Bioshock protagonist has been pretty vocal. Troy Baker puts on an amazing performance, especially since Booker talks a lot. As you get later and later into the game, and as new information is revealed to you and Booker at the same time, Troy does a good job of performing those moments of curiosity and wonderment that you'll both feel.
Do you understand the expense the people went through to keep you locked up in that tower?
I had to mention this, but there's a section when you escape the tower with Elizabeth, and Songbird is chasing you guys, and the music at this part is so hype. That's it. That's all I wanted to show you. Should you play Bioshock Infinite? Well, it's the perfect game. If this is the worst telescope of all time, hey, you guys nice? Nope, 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 nope. If you try to kill this lady,
Okay, I'm sure I can get this thing going.
and if this elevator is
But it sure as hell looks like a shortcut to getting us killed.
But I could help.
I can handle whatever comes along. Trust me.
Have it your way, I suppose.
What's up everyone, thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you loved it. It helps the channel a lot. I'm on social media, SilverJS on Twitter or X, whatever the and JSSilver on Instagram and Threads. 3s for the E's. These games are a lot of fun. They really hold up and they look even better than ever. I know it's just an up-res and a stable frame rate, but the point still stands. Let me know which one of them is your favorite in the comments. I read them all. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe.